Question, Admiral Cooper. You have tens of thousands of service members under your command.
And
I literally just read a provision from the Law of War manual,
sir,
our own manual. Will you not just say what I just read to you?
I will say that we will follow the law of armed conflict to the T.
This is just unbelievable to me.
I find the same thing, sir.
This is just unbelievable to
We
me.
will follow the law of armed conflict very calmly.
You have tens of thousands of service members under your command. I literally, verbatim, just read a provision from our own Law of War manual, and you will refuse to say what that provision says. Will you agree that it is prohibited under our own manual that you and all the people under your command are obligated to follow to declare that no quarter be given?
I will agree, consistent with my constitutional responsibility, to follow the law of armed conflict to the T. And I expect everyone working for me to do that.
This is not leadership. This is not leadership. To not be able to say something as basic. The people, the men and women who we represent, who are under your command, deserve leadership.
Mr. Chairman, I object.
Thank you, Chairman. Admiral Cooper, I'd like to start with you. Does the word declare mean to make a statement openly or formally? That's what the dictionary says it says. Would you stipulate to that?
Declare, sir. I think
to make a statement openly and publicly, formally. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Are you familiar with the DoD Law of War manual?
I am, sir.
You've studied it throughout your decades in service.
I have, sir.
And does the Law of War manual prohibit certain actions?
Of course. It defines legal
it does.
actions. Yes.
Pretty basic question.
Yes.
Does it also prohibit saying certain things?
I'd have to dig into the details, but there are certain, I'm certain that it does, but
okay.
Again, I'd take that for the record.
I will, okay, so how about this? Section 5.4.7. Are you familiar with that section? Probably not off the top of your head.
Not off the top of my head.
I'll read it for you.
Sure.
It says, the title of it is this: Prohibition against declaring that no quarter be given. So it says you can't say something, right? Yes?
That's, I will go with this line.
Pretty basic.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me read it. It is forbidden to declare that no quarter will be given. This means that it is prohibited to order that legitimate offers of surrender will be refused or that detainees such as unprivileged belligerents will be summarily executed. Moreover, it is also prohibited to conduct hostilities on the basis that there shall be no survivors, or to threaten the adversary with the denial of quarter. This rule is based on both humanitarian and military considerations. This rule also applies during non-international armed conflict. Does that make sense to you?
It's clear from a U.S. military perspective, we follow the law of armed conflict.
That's right.
And
so you would follow this section too?
The U.S. military follows the law.
Correct. So you would never declare, state openly and publicly that no quarter being given because our own Law of War manual prohibits it, does it not?
I have never made a declaration.
You haven't?
Oh, no.
Does the Law of War manual prohibit it?
I'll take that for the record. But
I just read it to you. I just read it to you.
Yes, sir.
You're a combatant commander. You're one of our most senior military officers with tens of thousands of service members under your command. Does the Law of War manual state that it is prohibited to declare that no quarter be given?
It prohibits a large number of things.
No, I've asked you.
I will follow.
I just read the provision to you. I just literally read the provision to you. Does it prohibit you or anyone else from declaring that no quarter be given? I just read it to you.
We will follow everything that's in the law.
Answer the question, Admiral Cooper. You have tens of thousands of service members under your command.
And
I literally just read a provision from the Law of War manual,
sir,
our own manual. Will you not just say what I just read to you?
I will say that we will follow the law of armed conflict to the T.
This is just unbelievable to me.
I find the same thing, sir.
This is just unbelievable to me.
We will follow the law of armed conflict very calmly.
You have tens of thousands of service members under your command. I literally, verbatim, just read a provision from our own Law of War manual, and you will refuse to say what that provision says. Will you agree
I
that it is prohibited under our own manual that you and all the people under your command are obligated to follow to declare that no quarter be given?
I will agree, consistent with my constitutional responsibility, to follow the law of armed conflict to the T. And I expect everyone working for me to do that.
This
And
is
I know
not
that-
this is not leadership. This is not leadership. To not be able to say something as basic. The people, the men and women who we represent, who are under your command, deserve leadership.
Mr. Chairman, I object.
willing
This
to
is a
say-
personal attack. This is unfair, and I appreciate the
Chairman,
Admiral
listen,
very
listen.
much as a
Reclaim my
Navy
time.
dad.
This is well within the
Unfair.
purview.
Please,
This is well within the purview of my questioning.
If I may.
Mr. Gentleman's time. He's
I
making
reclaim
a
my
comment.
time. Can I reclaim some additional time?
I'm going to give you some extra time. Go ahead.
It's our job to make sure the law is being followed. That is literally the obligation of this Congress. I read to you a provision of our own law of war manual, and all I want you to say is what the provision says. That it is prohibited, this is the title, this is what the title says, to declare that no quarter be given.
I will follow the law to the T and expect everyone to do the same.
This is extremely disappointing. Our service members deserve far better than this. I yield back.
All right, everyone, grab a seat and brace yourselves because we need to go completely into the blast radius of this House Armed Services Committee hearing. What you're looking at is not just a standard, boring, bureaucratic update on military budgets or hardware acquisition. This is a historic, raw, and fundamentally alarming structural breakdown between civilian lawmakers and the absolute top tier of American military command. We are witnessing an aggressive, highly calculated cross-examination that exposes a deep, systemic paralysis inside the modern Pentagon right now in 2026. To understand why this transcript is so incredibly explosive, we first have to look at the two distinct profiles of the men locking horns. On one side, you have Representative Jason Crow of Colorado. Crow isn't just some career politician who read a couple of books on defense policy to get onto this committee. He is a decorated former Army Ranger captain who led elite infantry troops on the ground in both Iraq and Afghanistan. He knows the tactical, gritty, real-world reality of the battlefield, and more importantly, he knows exactly how military law dictates life and death decisions under extreme stress. On the other side, you have Admiral Brad Cooper, a high-ranking, heavily decorated combatant commander with decades of service, responsible for directing massive naval operations and commanding tens of thousands of active-duty American service members. This is an elite infantry officer interrogating an elite naval commander over the core moral fabric of the uniform they both wore. Let's dismantle the opening chess moves of this interaction, because Crow sets a textbook prosecutor's trap that is beautifully simple, yet completely lethal. He doesn't start by screaming or hurling accusations. He starts with a dictionary. He looks up at the witness stand and asks a foundational semantic question. Does the word declare mean to make a statement openly or formally? Cooper, assuming this is just harmless introductory fluff, casually smiles and responds. That's what the dictionary says to make a statement openly and publicly formally. Yes. With that single admission, the trap is sprung. Crow instantly pivots and pulls out the heavy structural artillery, the official Department of Defense Law of War Manual. He asks Cooper if he's familiar with it, and Cooper says yes. He's studied it for decades. Crow then asks if the manual prohibits certain actions, which is a total softball question. Cooper says, of course, it defines what is legal. But then Crow shifts the weight of the entire room by asking, does it also prohibit saying certain things? Look at Cooper's immediate psychological shift right here in the transcript. The moment the question changes from prohibiting actions to prohibiting speech, Cooper's internal defense alarms start going off. He hesitates, stammering, I'd have to dig into the details. I'll take that for the record. A four-star admiral commanding thousands of troops suddenly needs to dig into the details of whether a soldier is allowed to say certain things on a battlefield? Crow doesn't let him breathe for a second. He drops the hammer and cites the exact provision, Section 5.4.7. He looks directly at the admiral and reads the title out loud, Prohibition against declaring that no quarter be given. For anyone watching who doesn't have a background in international law or military history, let's pause for a crucial educational moment. The phrase no quarter is one of the most severe, non-negotiable red lines in the history of civilized warfare. Under the Geneva Conventions and the U.S. military's own official doctrine, No quarter means conducting combat operations on the basis that you will refuse legitimate offers of surrender, that you will summarily execute captured enemy combatants, or that you will deliberately operate with the intent to leave absolutely zero survivors. It is an explicit war crime. And Section 5.4.7 makes it explicitly clear that even threatening an adversary with the denial of quarter or stating openly that your forces will take no prisoners is completely illegal. It is forbidden because it destroys the possibility of surrender, forces the enemy to fight to the absolute death, and violates basic human dignity. Crow reads this entire passage verbatim to the Admiral, ensuring every single word is entered into the congressional record. He asks, "Does that make sense to you?" Cooper answers calmly, "It's clear from a U.S. military perspective. We follow the law of armed conflict." Crow follows up with the ultimate diagnostic test. So you would follow this section too. You would never utter, you would never declare or state openly and publicly that no quarter be given, because our own law of war manual prohibits it, does it not? And this is where the entire hearing completely deconstructs into an unsanitized institutional standoff. Instead of giving a flat, unconditional, "Yes, that is correct, it is prohibited," Admiral Cooper completely freezes. He retreats behind a wall of absolute semantic stonewalling. He says, "I have never made a declaration." Think about the sheer, staggering evasion of that response. Crow didn't ask the Admiral if he personally had committed a war crime. He asked if the law prohibits it. Crow looks at him, visibly stunned, and asks again, "Does the law of war manual prohibit?" Cooper snaps back with, "I'll take that for the record, but I follow the law." Let's analyze this from a command and psychological perspective, because this is where the tension hits maximum friction. Crow is an overseer representing the American people, and he is looking at a man who has the legal authority to order young Americans into combat. Crow points this out directly, his voice rising. "You're a combatant commander. You're one of our most senior military officers with tens of thousands of service members under your command. Does the law of war manual state that it is prohibited to utter, to declare that no quarter be given? I just literally read the provision to you." And what does the Admiral do? He doubles down on the exact same circular, robotic talking point. It prohibits a large number of things. We will follow everything that's in the law. He refuses with total defiance to say the simple phrase, "Yes, it is prohibited." Why is this happening? Why is a top-tier American military commander willing to sit in front of a congressional committee and look completely evasive over a basic question about war crimes? This is the core insight of the entire 2026 defense landscape. The Pentagon has clearly drilled its top brass to never, under any circumstances, validate specific legal constraints or definitions when being cross-examined by Congress. In a hyper-politicized environment where global proxy conflicts are raging and domestic political rhetoric is increasingly extreme, the military leadership has adopted a siege mentality. They view specific legal acknowledgments as potential political traps that could be used to restrict operational flexibility or create embarrassing media headlines down the road. By sticking to the broad, meaningless corporate mantra of "we follow the law to the T," Cooper thinks he is protecting the chain of command from civilian interference. But to an old-school operator like Jason Crow, this corporate, defensive lawyering is a total betrayal of what military command actually means. Crow completely loses his patience, leaning into his microphone and declaring, "Answer the question, Admiral Cooper. Will you not just say what I just read to you?" Cooper repeats his line for the fourth time. "I will say that we will follow the law of armed conflict to the T." Crow shakes his head, utterly disgusted. "This is just unbelievable to me. You have tens of thousands of service members under your command. I literally verbatim just read a provision from our own law of war manual, and you will refuse to say what that provision says." He gives him one final chance to agree that every single soldier under his command is obligated to follow this rule. Cooper responds by filtering his answer through his constitutional responsibility. That is the exact moment Crow drops the ultimate rhetorical bomb on the witness stand. This is not leadership. Think about how devastating that phrase is when hurled from a former Ranger to an active admiral inside a congressional hearing. Crow explains exactly why it's a failure of command. If a four-star commander sitting in the safety of a Washington hearing room doesn't have the moral courage or the clarity to openly and unequivocally state the basic ethical boundaries of warfare, how can he possibly expect a 19-year-old private or a 22-year-old lieutenant on the ground, operating under the terrifying fog of war, to understand and uphold those same boundaries? True military leadership requires absolute, unshakable clarity, not evasive legal maneuvering. The friction becomes so intense that the room completely fractures. Another lawmaker on the committee breaks all decorum, shouting out an objection and interrupting Crow's time. Mr. Chairman, I object. This is a personal attack. This is unfair. The committee enters a chaotic, unsanitized shouting match over protocol, with the chairman ultimately granting Crow extra time to finish his point. Crow uses his remaining seconds to deliver a biting, final reality check to the entire defense establishment. It's our job to make sure the law is being followed. That is literally the obligation of this Congress. He notes how profoundly disappointing it is that a senior leader cannot simply read the title of his own manual out loud before yielding back his time with a parting shot. Our service members deserve far better than this. When you watch this entire interaction play out, don't just see it as a political squabble. This is a profound, deeply unsettling window into a constitutional crisis occurring at the highest levels of national defense. It reveals a dangerous divide where civilian oversight expects transparent accountability and moral clarity, while the military elite has insulated itself behind a defensive wall of hyper-rehearsed, non-committal talking points, leaving the actual laws of war hanging in a cloud of bureaucratic ambiguity.